Heyo everybody, Haku here with HaQ&A 76. Yeah, this is the normal kind of video that should be coming once every 2 weeks, but I've had a bit of trouble with it lately because I got behind on comments a bit, but from here on out, back to every 2 weeks again. It should be on Thursdays. But again, I'm a little bit off this week because it's the first week of the month and it's always crazy and stuff. So I'm going to discuss what I'm doing for the rest of the week too, but basically these videos, if you're new to it for whatever reason, are that I'm going to discuss comments that, or topics from comments and stuff, so that you sort of get discussion and content based on what you actually want to hear about and stuff like that. But other than that, it's just a place for me to do kind of a chill, long video where I just sit and talk to you for a bit. So I've got a lot of general stuff before I get into comments, not really a lot. But a decent bit about what's going on for the rest of this week and such. And I've got 4 pretty big sections, I think, of discussion. I'm going to be doing Boku no Hero Academia, Magical Girl Raising Project, Beastars, and Tower of God, I think. Of course, Tower of God as usual. And I think I'm going to start saving that for last, usually, for the HaQ&As. Since it's usually my longest section, I'll go ahead and do the shorter sections, even though, like, sometimes Boku no Hero Academia is going to be probably nearly as long this time around. But I can just go ahead and get the shorter sections directly after the general for the people that are here for manga or anime or whatever and not necessarily Tower of God, and then just save Tower of God for the end so that those of you that are here for Tower of God can see my general section of discussion here at the beginning and then go to the comments where I post the timestamps and just jump straight to Tower of God from there. But yeah, some general things. I don't know how well recording this is going to go. Yesterday I had a huge problem with losing my voice and with my throat hurting, and you can really tell in the video. I've got some tea here that I'm going to be drinking very liberally throughout this video so that I don't, and I'll probably cut it out most of the times, just take some jump cuts, but I'm going to be drinking it a lot to try to keep myself from losing my voice. I already feel my throat kind of starting to hurt, and we're like 2 minutes in, so that's not good. But yeah, Ogre Jokes on Twitter said that it might be good for me to, when I record this video, since it's so long, to kind of just record it a part at a time so it's easier on me. I'm going to try to record as much as possible, hopefully the whole thing here, but if not, I can just record part of it now and then part of it later when I go to record the Tower of God review. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the week. Right now this video is priority number 1 to get up, Tower of God review second priority, and then what would be next? I guess then it'd be the Walking Dead review, and then the Promised Neverland read through. So I'm hoping to get this Tower of God and the Walking Dead all 3 up today. That would be really good. And then just do the Promised Neverland a day late tomorrow. But maybe I'll have to do 2 of those 3 or 2 of those 4 videos tomorrow. But either way, once I get those done, I'm kind of basically caught up with things. I'm not really behind very much this week, even though it is the first of the month. So it's not that bad. I'm pretty much caught up, and sticking to the schedule from here on out should be easier since I'm basically caught up to it. But that's another thing I noticed is that, and something I wanted to talk about, is that for a little while it was kind of bothering me. I was kind of being self-conscious, I guess, and not really super happy with like the schedule thing, because even though I thought it was great and I kept this ideal in my head of I really want to stick to that, I was like, I'm constantly failing to stick to it. I am constantly not doing a good job of this. But then I checked, and I usually, because I'm so busy, I spend all of my time for YouTube stuff actually making content and whatnot and actually answering comments and stuff, so I usually don't take time to look at like view or like numbers or anything like that. I pay enough attention to it, of course, to see what I should or shouldn't do and to try to improve, but other than that I usually don't put too much stake in it because I don't want it to all like be about the views or anything like that. But I guess I was procrastinating trying to go to sleep the other night, and I checked my Social Blade for the first time in probably like damn near a year or something, to tell the truth, and everything from like late 2016 all through 2017 had basically risen up to a point and stayed, it went up and down naturally, but everything stayed around that point. And it was around this winter when I started kind of like struggling to get videos up on time and stuff, and I was just like in a weird place, and things were like starting to lower down until like I believe it was March of this year was one of my lowest months ever for views and subscribers and stuff. And then April, which is when I started trying to stick to this new schedule and bringing read-throughs back and bringing special videos back, even though I failed a lot, just trying. April jumped from March being one of my lowest months ever. April was either my highest month ever for views and subs or my second highest ever. And it's carried on and been that high again for the past 2 months, May and June after that. So it's like just trying to actually stay on the schedule has been great. It's worked. It's made things work. It's brought people back. It's brought more people in. So I think even if I fail, just trying to stay to that schedule, it actually did work where I thought I was failing. So, so I guess that's a good thing. I'm going to keep trying to stick to it, going to keep trying to bring in new types of videos and new things like that. And I think a Patreon will help with that, because honestly, some of my biggest insecurities and worries about doing YouTube stuff is always financial, because it makes barely anything. But with a Patreon, that can totally change, and it can at least give me money to put back in to get better software and a better computer and stuff, which is some things that have held me back a lot in the past and even currently. So it would be a good way to bring money back in. So I want to do a Patreon eventually. But again, that's the thing. I've been saying that since like February or something. I've been saying that to myself. But at the same time, I keep putting it off and putting it off, because if I have time to spend, I want to spend that time actually answering comments. I want to spend that time actually making videos. So once I get to a point where I'm comfortable with all the comments being answered and all the videos I want for that day or that week being made, and I have free time or something, then I'll make it. But until then, content comes first. Anything else about that subject I wanted to talk about? I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff, but it is what it is. There was something else. There was definitely more I wanted to talk about, but we have some general things I put down in the notes. Oh yeah, thank you everybody for giving me extra anime suggestions and stuff on the anime video. The summer anime video discussing what I plan to watch and stuff. If you haven't seen that and want to know what I'm going to watch or anything, I don't have it all listed out with me, but I'll leave a link to that video in the comments or the description, one or the other, maybe both, so that you can watch that as well. That's usually a fun video to make, and it's just me discussing what I feel like watching or what's airing in general, if you wanted to, I don't know, get educated on what's airing in general. And so yeah. I have in my notes, eventually getting on schedule, eventually making Patreon. Already ended up talking about that. So yeah, I think that there's a lot to look forward to with improving the channel and being able to do special videos like this weekend. Because there's no Boku no Hero Academia chapter or episode this week. It sucks. Both are on break the same week. It's killing me. But I'm actually going to do a Boku no Hero Academia favorite characters video probably Saturday. If I'm behind on stuff, it might be Sunday. But sometime this weekend. So we're going to have a special video then, and then the special video should be every other week, spread out with the HaQ&As. I've been failing at that because generally the HaQ&A just takes a lot of time and effort to make, and so do the special videos. But I'm still working on them, and at least trying means that they'll at least eventually be done. And at least trying works, I guess. I've seen results from at least trying. Also, yeah, I cut my hair off recently, and I'll probably be wearing a hat a bit in a few videos, because I'm going to be really self-conscious about, like, how when you just cut it, like, some parts are going to stick straight out and some are going to be flat against the head, and it makes my head look all weird. And just generally visually self-conscious a lot, especially since I had that one semester of college that was really rough, and it was fall 2016, and within that one semester I just gained a ton of weight, and my weight's been kind of steady since then. I've been like, I want to say I've been trying to get back down to the weight I had been at for years before. But I guess I've struggled with that because, again, free time, I haven't been putting as much as I should have into working out or anything like that. I've been putting just all my free time into working on whatever I can work on for YouTube. So maybe I do need to take some time here and there to work out more. I probably should. And I really want to. So that's something that I'm planning for the future personally too. And there is actually one general comment that I wanted to discuss in the general section before getting into actual series sections, because this is something I get for a lot of different series, and I wanted to discuss and address it again. I have a million times in the past, but I wanted to bring it up again for new people or for people that just didn't know for whatever reason. But shout out Boxton said, is there any way to show the actual panels as you read? And that, again, works for a ton of different series. And also, yeah, I get this comment about like a million times a week. But the thing is, they were polite about it, and I usually don't answer this. But at least I wanted to again. At least I usually don't answer it anymore because it feels repetitive after I've answered it just hundreds of times by now. But yeah, they were really polite about it, and they weren't like rude or condescending or kind of a jerk. And I kind of get comments like that a lot with this subject. But they were polite about it, so I wanted to answer it. But no, I don't show the panels as I read, and no, there's not a really good way to. And there are a few different reasons for it. I think the biggest one for me is that technically it is stealing because you're taking somebody else's content, and when you're reading it, it's different because you're lending your voice and your words, kind of. So even if I'm reading along word for word, it's still not showing any of what their actual content is. But if I'm putting the panel up, that is their actual content that they own that I'm putting up. That is, you could argue it's fair use, but you would be really be stretching it. It's not really fair use anymore if I'm showing all the panels as I'm reading them. But also, I could be subject to having the video taken down. I've seen that happen for people that have read manga and put stuff up there. And I don't know if the case is true anymore, but with Tower of God being technically owned, I guess, by Naver or published by Naver, Naver used to be really strict on that kind of stuff, and any kind of fan translations by Naver stuff would get taken down. So yeah, just biggest reason for me is it would be stealing, and I'd also be I'd be subject to having my video taken down. So both of those are big reasons for me. Another one, like, it's kind of a moral thing for me, I guess, in a way. But another thing is that no other channels I know of that I watch for any reactions or read-throughs for any manga or anything use the actual panels there, except arguably King of Lightning, but his videos are highly edited, and they come out, like, oftentimes a week late. So, yeah, I don't do it. Again, another reason, because no other channels I know of do it. So it's not like I'm an exception. It's not like everybody else is showing the panels and stuff and I'm like the one person who isn't. Nobody else is either. So I don't know why it would be an expectation on me. Also, it doesn't really... Another reason I don't is that if I jumped around and did a lot of jump cuts in my reactions, then it might be confusing to keep up if I didn't show what I was talking about. But generally, for read-throughs and reactions and stuff, I don't edit parts out because I'm not sure which parts people do or don't want to see my thoughts on them or whatever. And it's easier that way too, so I generally don't edit very much, if anything, out. So keeping up and going in order or anything shouldn't be very hard because I actually go in order. And also, I assume that if people are watching my video on something, they've likely already read whatever it is and know what's going on, or even if they've already read, whether they have or not, a lot of times they're reading along. So I just assume they've either already read or they're reading along. So again, and there's probably more reasons even than all of those that I just listed, but those are kind of some important ones that come to mind. And like I said, I usually don't answer that kind of question anymore since I just get it so much. And the reasons, it seems kind of rude to say they're obvious, but I feel like the reasons are kind of like, You can probably tell if you think about it a little. So I usually don't answer that question, but yeah, that's why. And that's it for the general section. I'm really trying to think before I move on to the series sections, though, and make sure I'm not forgetting anything that I wanted to talk about. It's very difficult. Oh yeah, for anime reviews, I might be adding a few if there's like any show that comes up that I want to talk about and review week to week. But so far, the only stuff for this season that I have watched so far were Island, and I'm going to stick with it and keep watching it, at least for now, but I'm not going to review it. It was definitely not that good. And Hanebado was better, I guess, but it still was pretty meh. It was just kind of normal, middle-of-the-lane anime. So yeah, and that's one thing for anime, too, is that, like, 2017, I praised all last year. I praised how amazing 2017 was compared to 2016, and now getting into 2018, I'm almost willing to say that 2018 in general hasn't even been as good as 2016, let alone 2017. 2017, it was like every single season there were like a couple of standout, really amazing anime, and even in addition to those couple of really great standouts, there were a lot of good ones. And so far for 2018, for winter and for spring, there's been a couple good ones, maybe here and there, a lot of mediocre ones, and it's just been general meh for the first 2 seasons of this year. And now getting into summer, I'm hoping for more, but it seems like a lot will probably be meh. There just haven't been those amazing standouts like there were like almost every single season last year. And the only one I can think of this year is, of course, Boku no Hero Academia Season 3. Hold on, sorry. Felt like I had a hair in front of my eye. Yeah, other than Boku no Hero Academia Season 3, which is an amazing standout, this year in general has just been a lot of meh. There hasn't been a ton that's been great, and like winter, there were a lot that I watched throughout winter and I thought were really good, but none of them were like Hoseki no Kuni good, or Made in Abyss good. Princess Principal 2017? I'm getting confused. That might have been late 2016. But yeah, if Princess Principal was 2017, then it wasn't Princess Principal good. It obviously wasn't Boku no Hero Academia Season 2 good, Little Witch Academia good. Attack on Titan 2 was kind of meh at parts, but even Attack on Titan 2 good, I guess. Maid Dragon. All these shows, or Kimono Friends, all these shows that made it hugely popular and were also very, very good. And with this year, I feel like there have only been maybe like 2, maybe arguably 3 that have been hugely popular, and of those maybe 3 that I would consider to be hugely popular, the only really good one or really great one really, is Boku no Hero Academia Season 3. Because, I mean, Darling in the Franxx is pretty trash, and Violet Evergarden was a whole lot of meh. It was very overhyped and very meh. Like, there were good episodes. I would argue that almost every episode was good, but the overall story was just so meh, just so bland. And even then, I don't think it was like that popular compared to a lot of things last year. So I don't know. It's just 2018 so far has not been very inspiring. Like, for me to make good videos on an anime, I have to be inspired by it to discuss it and talk about it and how good it is, but there hasn't been anything that's good enough to inspire me to talk about any of that. Except for Boku no Hero Academia. And there's been some things that are good. Like I said, a lot of the things I watched in winter were good. I liked Kokoku a lot, and it was good. Same with Mitsuboshi Colors. But though they were really good, they weren't like huge standouts among anime. But yeah, I guess that's it for the general section. Kind of a weird place to end that discussion. But next I'll get into the 4 series discussions we have, and I think I'm going to start this one with Boku no Hero Academia. Okay, here we go with the Boku no Hero Academia section, starting off with Martin D. Tom. He asks, this chapter was great and I like your reaction. If I may ask, where were you reading the chapter from? And I wanted to bring this one up and actually talk about it first in the section, because I usually don't bring this up for Boku no Hero Academia and for One Piece. Usually with my read-throughs and stuff, a lot of the time I'll remind people where I'm reading from so they can follow along with the translation I'm using. But for One Piece and Boku no Hero Academia, because it's just a quick first morning thing that I'm like, oh crap, wherever it comes out at, I need to read it before I get spoiled or anything, I usually don't talk about it. For One Piece, though I know that's a little off topic, I just use Manga Stream each week. But for Boku no Hero Academia, it changes. I try to use Jai Menace Box because I believe the Jai Menace Box translation to be better. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes it can get some things wrong here and there, and maybe sometimes the Manga Stream translation can do better. But I always try to go for Jai Menace Box because their website just works so much better. And their translation's usually better. But sometimes they're a couple hours behind Manga Stream, and so since Manga Stream's already out with the translation a couple hours earlier, I have to use Manga Stream so that I don't get spoiled while I'm working on One Piece, because I usually try to record it in One Piece first thing when I get up in the morning. So yeah, if Jai Menace Box isn't out, I'll use Manga Stream, but usually I use Jai Menace Box. And yeah, that's the way I go with Boku no Hero Academia. Next up, is that MI or ML? I think it's ML. ML. At least someone is hyped for Endeavor. Tumblr's melting down over the possibility of redemption. I think that Endeavor is quickly becoming one of my favorite characters. Like, I don't know, I love redemption style storylines, but Endeavor, I think I'm gonna be doing the this weekend, since both the manga and anime are on break. I said it in the earlier section, but I'm going to be doing the favorite character videos. I think Endeavor's going to be decently high up there. Like, he has quickly become one of my favorite characters, from being able to not stand him, thinking he was such a dickwad in the beginning, because everybody did. I love characters like that, and Endeavor in particular is a good one. I love characters that are just shitty, just bad, and then they learn the error of their ways and are able to try to take steps to make up for what they've done. And I feel like that's Endeavor's character, and it's happened so slowly, and it's happened part by part across the entire story of Boku no Hero Academia, to the point where Endeavor's probably one of the deepest and most developed characters, if not arguably the deepest and most developed character in the entire series. So I've quickly come to love Endeavor, and I think we're going to talk about that more with the next comment or two, actually. So I'll hold off on gushing over Endeavor too much until I read some more. Shadow Lugia, or Lugia? No clue. I always go back and forth whenever there's something like that, like with Beastars, whether it's pronounced Lewis or Louis. I always go back and forth, and I'm not sure what to do. Shadow Lugia, 18011. I really like being able to see a bit into Endeavor and Choto's family, and I'm interested in seeing what Choto's mother's suffering from, as well as what Endeavor's reasons are for fighting or not forgetting his family. The fight with High End's going to be crazy. I'm really looking forward to the anime catching up. Okay, so let me start. There's a lot to discuss from those topics. So starting from the beginning, I'm not sure that Shoto's mom, or Rei, we know her name now, I'm not sure that Rei actually suffers from anything specific, really. I think it's mostly just the effects of spousal abuse. And honestly, the effects of the spousal abuse are probably something that just happened to her, recently, within the past 10 years from when she burnt Shoto. So it's kind of a really new thing, because I wouldn't think that she particularly suffers from clinical depression. Or anxiety, and she might suffer from anxiety or depression because of what happened, but I don't think it's an imbalance sort of thing, sort of a clinical thing that she's always had to deal with. So I don't think that she might even need to be in a facility if it wasn't for the fact that she burnt a 5-year-old, and that's probably a pretty serious crime, and it's probably either go to some sort of prison, have her kids taken from her, or go into a mental institution, and Endeavor went the mental institution route instead of just putting her in prison. Because burning a 5-year-old, no matter, like, it's probably a pretty serious crime, and you can argue it's only because of the spousal abuse. So that's what I think it is. I think she was just in a really bad spot that really negatively affected her mental health. I don't think it's like a just chronic lifelong thing. I think it's something that just happened then, and that maybe that might make it easier to get over, but we don't know if she ever will be able to. And I'm not sure that she'll ever be able to, because that kind of has something to do with her and Endeavor's relationship. But I would say we're kind of already seeing whether or not she can get over it, whether she can conquer this beast, because she was able to seemingly rebuild a relationship with Shoto, a happy relationship with Shoto, because we know that he visits her, she talks to him, she talks to her other kids, she gets these letters and she's really excited to hear from him. So even though she burnt him, she was able to overcome that already through a lot of effort from Shoto. So since she's already able to do that, I think that she might be able to rebuild a relationship with Endeavor. I don't think it'd be anything romantic. I mean, it might be. And I think, though, that Endeavor seems like he's likely going to apologize, or that he's working to try to make it up to her. We know that he's left flowers. We know that he remembers a lot of things from when they were first together. So I don't know if it'll ever be anything romantic, if it ever was anything in the first place, but with some of the flashbacks, I think it could have been. So again, it's one of those things where, just as a person reading a story, and with Ray being a fictional character, even if it's a really well written fictional character, because it's done by a really good author, even though she's a fictional character, so it's hard to say, but I think she could end up forming a healthy relationship with Endeavor if he's able to apologize and try to make up for some of the things he's done. But also, kind of sadly, we don't know that even, let's say, Ray and Endeavor rebuild a healthy relationship. Let's say that happens. We still don't know if that is particularly how to get her out. Because we're not sure really what the doctors think. We've never seen anything about that particularly. And we don't know if, because burning a 5-year-old, like I said, is probably a pretty serious crime, we don't know if the doctors are going to be that willing to let her just go back to that household with the 5-year-old she burned, who is now 15, and with the husband that abused her. We don't know how that's going to work out, but I would say that if they do build up a better relationship, Endeavor is the number one hero. He probably has enough sway, enough respect from the public in general, that if he tried, he could probably have her released to live at home. Like, even if there was still some treatment going on for what she's suffering through, I think at least Endeavor might be able to get her released to live at home, just because he has so much sway and all that. And as for Endeavor, I think it's clear that he never wanted to be a dick. He never wanted to be evil. Because we know his goal. He wanted to be the best hero. He wanted to save the most people. He wanted to surpass All Might. And we already know that Endeavor solved more cases than All Might. It's just that All Might is more popular, because he was setting an example. He was the shining symbol of peace, even though Endeavor was the one that did put in more work and did solve more cases. So now we see that ever since that All Might All for One fight, we've seen that Endeavor realized kind of why he should be a hero, or how he should be a hero, and a big part of that was talking to All Might during those special lessons during that little arc, and then vowing to Shoto that he'd become someone he could look up to was a huge, huge thing. So I could say that because of his goals and everything, I would say Endeavor was always a good person, but he was one of those people that wanted something so badly that he was willing to overlook doing bad things in order to get to what he thought was good. So it's not that he was ever a bad person, it's just that he was a good person that was making excuses for his bad actions because he thought it would help people, because he thought it would be a good thing to surpass All Might, or to have Shoto surpass All Might. And now that he's been shown that that was wrong, I would say that I'm super excited for it, because I feel like he could make a turn and be a good guy, you know? I think we've already seen the groundwork laid for that, and it's again one of those things that I'm trying to articulate the best I can, my thoughts on it, but it is a bit difficult to tell because, of course, it is a fictional story with fictional characters that could go either way, and even if it was real, you never really know what people are going to do or what they're thinking. Not totally, not 100%. So yeah, I think that Endeavor was just an ends justify the means kind of guy, but he always had good intentions for the bad things he did, and because of that, now that he realizes how wrong he was, he could try to make up with Rei. We don't know the entirety of their backstory or how close their relationship actually ever was, and it seems like we might get flashbacks on that. We probably will, and from some of the flashbacks we have seen, maybe there might have been something there. So they might actually be able to repair a decent relationship, and Rei could come live back at home again, even if they never become romantic or go back to being romantic or anything like that. And also for the anime, I'm really excited for the anime to get to this stuff, which will be season 5. But I'm sure by the time that we get to this and we're seeing this stuff in the anime, as excited as I am about that, there's going to be stuff that's going to happen in season 6 or 7 that I'm just going to be preoccupied with. Oh, I can't wait till the anime gets with that. Because that's the way I am. I'm enjoying season 3 so much, but I can't stop myself from thinking all the time, oh, I can't wait to see this in season 4. Oh, I can't wait to see this in season 5. So I know by the time I get to season 5, even if I'm enjoying it, I'm going to be thinking the same thing about season 6 and 7. And next Shadow Lugia 18011 said, "A wounded hero is the most terrifying of all. All for one in his fight against All Might. High End is monstrously powerful. He's regenerated from Endeavor's incredibly powerful attacks, and he's already managed to injure Endeavor. However, I don't think Endeavor's done here. Hawks is strong, but I don't think he has the capabilities to be the pillar of hope. He himself states that his back simply isn't broad enough to make the people feel safe. I think Endeavor is needed to take up the position as the pillar of hope, and I predict that Todoroki or another member of his family will show up to cool down Endeavor's body temperature and help him finish the fight." My thoughts on all of it, I think, and I've said this a bunch in the live reactions and all that, I think it's too soon to take down High End, and for Endeavor's family, they're too far away. I don't think any of them will show up. I think that Endeavor needs to take the loss for now, but in Endeavor losing, he gains a lot. Society has cheered him on in this fight. Society has grown to see that he might be the strongest. He might be able to protect them from threats like High End in the future, or that even if they don't see him beat High End here, they know that they need to cheer him on because he's their only hope to grow stronger to protect them from threats like that in the future. That nobody else is around to make up for what Endeavor lacks, so they need to cheer on Endeavor to get better. So I think in general, losing kind of pushes Endeavor to be the number one, to be the symbol. Also, High End living, I think, is important because there are a million different character things that can be done with him. And he's just a really cool character in general, so I'd like to see him set up as this really cool villain for the future, and Endeavor can take him down in the future. Also, this fight with High End has done a lot for Endeavor because it's kind of made his family realize what Endeavor means to them. Because, even before, Shoto obviously is not the biggest fan of Endeavor, obviously. And even Natsuo said, I can't forgive him for what he's done to everyone. And then, when push comes to shove and he's injured during this fight, Shoto is hella concerned, and so is Natsuo incredibly concerned. So again, I think that the best way for this to end probably is High-End just getting called back by Shigaraki, or High-End deciding, you know what, I'm going to go find somebody stronger to fight right now. So then Endeavor can heal up, he can reconnect with his family, probably, possibly, likely apologize to them, and he'll get some sort of acceptance from his family. Even if it's a long road to recovery, we'll have another milestone along that road. And they'll kind of accept him, at least for now, and he'll beat High-End the next time. He can plan and strategize and prepare for how he's going to do it now that he's seen his quirks. And next, Nikos says, honestly, I think Endeavor will survive and eventually beat High-End, either immediately or after some time, like you said. And for a time, things will be looking up for him. People will start to accept him and be less afraid of him, and they'll start being more sociable. Then somebody, probably Dabi, will leak to the media about Endeavor's past and what he did to his family, and his reputation's going to be destroyed, to the point of him getting harassed and being in danger of being arrested. And I think that I could see that happening too. I think that's a good alternate take on the situation. It's not really what I see happening with him being built up, but him being built up only for somebody to leak what happened and it kind of hurting his reputation a lot. It's a good alternate take on the situation that wasn't what I was thinking. So yeah, it's good food for thought, so to speak. Let me get a sip of this tea. I guess I won't make it a jump cut. I'm just going to talk with you all, because doing a bunch of jump cuts is just going to make editing this so much more confusing. But I'm really, really trying not to destroy my voice as well. White Bear Beppo said, High-End doesn't even seem like a character that's able to develop. It's more of a monster wanting to fight strong people rather than a blank slate that's able to develop. High-End's mental instability won't allow him to develop at a reasonable pace. And I love White Bear Beppo and all of his comments and stuff. He's honestly one of my first commenters and all that. But though I really love him, doesn't mean we can't disagree, because I could not disagree more about how insanely versatile High-End could be as a character. How many incredible, really, really good stories could be told from his character. He could become obsessed with his desire to fight strong opponents, so obsessed with that desire that when the villain alliance is like giving him orders or telling him to come back or do whatever, he starts disobeying the villain alliance because his desire, his drive to fight strong opponents just overwhelms his obedience to the villain alliance. And it could be also an important thing where his desire to fight stronger opponents brings about his own destruction, where he gets careless trying to fight the strongest and eventually bites off more than he can chew, or eventually just gets outsmarted. Also, a different way it could go, he could become a resource that's completely loyal to the League of Villains and can't disobey them, and it could make him a tragic character that, even though he might get hurt himself in the process, even though maybe he has a sad, tragic backstory from before when he was a human or something, or yeah, I think just the getting hurt himself thing, we could see him as a tragic character that can't disobey Shigaraki's orders and is always following his orders no matter how much it hurts him himself. So we could see him as that kind of tragic character. One way we could see it is that he could escape from the villains and be in kind of this constant existential crisis over being a monster and not knowing who he was as a human before he became High-End, which would be an incredible story to tell. I would love a story like that, where High-End is just in existential crisis with not really, maybe he has memories of his past self. We don't know exactly what his mental state is, but just this crisis over being a man-made monster, essentially. But like I said before, a man-made monster made from man. We could also see a storyline where he tries to chase after his original self. He tries to find out who he was and all of that, and try to make it back to who his friends or family were before. But when they see him, they can't accept him as a monster. because he isn't the person that they knew before that they thought was dead. He's this Nomu now. Or maybe they could even accept him, and this is super unlikely, but what if he does find his past and is able to escape from the villains and find his former family and everything, and they're actually happy that he's alive, even if it's as high end, and he could have a happy ending with his family and escaping the villains. Now, I think that's super unlikely, but even that could be a good story. And the point in all of that is that I'm not even Horikoshi. I'm not even a great writer or anything, but I can think of dozens of storylines like all those I went through. I can think of dozens of storylines that revolve around who High End is, possibly who he was in the past, or who he could change and become. Like maybe he could be like a loyal villain to the Villain Alliance, he could be a force of nature on his own, just going around trying to fight the strongest, or he could even end up coming to terms with who he is and becoming an anti-hero of some sort. There's just so much that could be done that even I can think of all these different storylines, and I'm not even as great as Horikoshi or anything. We could see his past, which would be really cool, or we could not even get into it and it would still be good. And we could still have development and stories about him as someone who is sentient. So yeah, like I said, he's a man-made monster, but he's made from man. So he's just, it's cool. And we've seen during the fight with Endeavor already, we've gone through the fact that he's not just a parrot that mimics human speech or mimics human action or anything, but we saw from Endeavor analyzing him and how he fought and talked to Endeavor that he can think abstractly, he can plan, he can strategize, he can want certain things, and that makes you argue that he even feels. So yeah, he can plan, like when he strategized keeping away certain opponents to fight certain other ones, and doing this or that, throwing his head away to survive and then using it to attack. He can want things like he wants to fight strong opponents, and you can argue because of all that he even feels emotion, even if it's like sort of simple emotions like drives, you know? But yeah, there's a ton of stories that you can tell with High End. And that's potentially why he's like my favorite character already, though we've seen so little of him. High End is just like, I'm more hyped for High End than almost any character that's ever been in Boku no Hero Academia. And lastly for the section, ML said, High End's too mysterious to just die here. Also, he could have just been called Nomu, but he has his own name. I think that Endeavor's going to get destroyed. It's almost necessary for his character growth. And Hawks looks like he's about to get slashed in the face too. I don't know about the Hawks thing. Maybe I just missed something though, with those last panels. But yeah, I completely agree with all of that, with High End being too mysterious to just die, because like I said, there's so many stories. And also with the thought of Endeavor almost has to lose here for his character to grow even more, because I think it helps both characters for this fight to end with neither one of them dying. Best way at this point, like I said, is probably for the Villain Alliance to call High End back to the base. But I'm pretty sure I need to reread a lot of things, and I'm currently rereading the series, but I'm pretty sure this is just supposed to be a test for High End anyway. I mean, we don't have a reason for him to do this attack, so it should just be a test of his abilities. I mean, because why would the Villain Alliance just send him out to destroy a hero and try to take out Endeavor out of nowhere if it wasn't to see what a sentient Nomu could do? So yeah, I think that in this case, High End probably should get called back and survive, and Endeavor definitely should, because it'd be best for Endeavor to not die here, or to maybe not win or anything, because he can stand like a pillar of hope, because he chased off High End. Like if High End escapes or something, everybody could be like, oh my gosh, Endeavor chased off High End. And of course the loss of not like killing or actually defeating High End will drive Endeavor to improve and get better, like we've seen from his character before. So yeah, killing High End seems like a waste of a lot of potential stories, and that's what I'm more worried about than killing Endeavor, but killing Endeavor would waste stories too. So yeah, that's it for the Boku no Hero Academia section. Look forward definitely to seeing the, I would say look forward to seeing the video this weekend for the top characters. I'm going to have a lot of fun making that. And then next week, when we get back to the manga and see more of this fight, it's going to be amazing. When we get back to the anime, and we're going to have a new opening and a new ending, and we're going to be getting into a new arc, it's going to be amazing. So, yeah, there's just so much to be hype about this series. And it's probably become my favorite series. I don't know. You guys know that during the overhaul arc, I was kind of like, eh. And then after the overhaul arc, I really enjoyed that provisional extra lessons arc. I thought that was really fun. And then I really liked the gentle arc, and that totally brought me back around to being like, okay, everything is amazing. And now rereading the overhaul arc, it was very, very good. I still feel like it's just kind of off from the other arcs. Something about it just feels different and not in the best way, but there are a lot of amazing moments. The Kirishima and Fat Gum versus Tengai and Rappa fight is amazing. I love that fight so much. Yeah, just generally the Kirishima Fat Gum stories, and Mirio and Amajiki. I love their stories too. So there's a lot of really good stuff that arc, and I love the end with the League of Villains. I think more so than the heroes, the League of Villains are really the stars of that arc. Even though they don't show up that much, there's so much to learn about their characters and so much I enjoy about their characters there. So in hindsight, it's better than I gave it credit for. I think the only reason I still kind of dislike it though is because Overhaul's kind of a pathetic villain. He's kind of very, very not smart. Like, he has a quirk, and this is what always bothered me. He has a quirk where he could do anything. He can kill anyone, bring anyone back to life with just a touch, essentially. He can make anything into anything he wants. Potentially, he could have limitless power and energy. We've seen that he can fuse himself with other people. Like, his power is limited, or like limitless. He could be a god. He could be just completely omnipotent, essentially. And yet, he kinda sucks. So yeah, Chisaki just bothers me a lot because Horikoshi felt the need to give him a quirk that, if you think about how you could use it, you could be omnipotent, essentially. But he doesn't. He's like not smart enough to realize or plan that out or whatever. So yeah, Overhaul just has always bothered me as a villain, still bothers me as a villain, because he has this completely insane quirk that we're never ever going to see completely used because it would break the story, obviously, which always makes me question why even write the quirk to begin with. And now the quirk is gone because his hands are missing, but that's not a permanent thing, as we've seen, because he can probably get his hands back. I can think of at least one way he could get his hands back off the top of my head. That's that Eri could bring them back. Now that's probably, of course, never going to happen, but it's one of those things where it's possible in the universe of the series. So yeah, I don't know. Just lots of problems with Overhaul is kind of why I shit on the arc a little bit. And honestly, the Eightfold Cleansers in general, except for Rappa, who was a really cool character, they are all jobbers. They are all scrubs. They just completely get their ass handed to them. Amajiki takes out 3 by himself. Mirio completely demolishes 2 of them, I think, like it's nothing. Irinaka's a joke. Like, the Eightfold Cleansers were jokes. They were such scrubs. Rappa was cool, though. Rappa's one of my favorite characters, I think. But other than Rappa, they were just scrubs. And even Rappa, as much as I like him, he gets taken down by Fat Gum and Kirishima, but it was a good fight. So I guess technically Rappa puts up the best fight out of anybody except for Chisaki. So yeah, I don't know. They were just like, the Eightfold Cleansers were such scrubs that kind of made it less exciting too. And then what I was getting on is, after that, the arcs have gotten amazing and amazing, and this is probably one of my favorite arcs so far. Even though it's kind of abrupt and out of nowhere, I love this arc with High End and Endeavor. And even, again, it's about High End and Endeavor, not even about like our main characters, and it's still one of the funnest arcs to me. But either way, I got off topic because I love talking about the series so much, but this section's over now, and leave comments if you want to discuss anything else, and we can talk about it in the next HaQ&A, of course. Next up, we have a super short B-Star section, just kind of as a transition here before the next one. But Zern Vladik says Legum best girl, and I mean, it's possible. Legum is like free and infinite supply of tasty eggs. That's hard to pass up. And like not even just eggs, but like Legum apparently has like some of the top tierest eggs. So Legum may possibly be best girl. And then later on, I think the next read through, they said the best girl hasn't shown up yet. Better keep your eyes out for her. But those eyes being in quotations worries me. But we'll see if she can dethrone Shiida. Shiida is my current best girl. Juno feels kind of yandere, and that's why I'm not quite sure about Juno yet. I get these vibes from her that I'm not sure. But Shiida is the best girl. That's such a weird discussion, but yeah, that's all I actually have for B-Stars. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next read-through. That'll be next Wednesday, actually. So yeah, that's it for this section. Next up, we have our Magical Girl Raising Project section, mostly talking about Limited, but not all Limited. Ixeke Kaku Reaper says, Dear Clantail, we certainly pray you are not involved in anything further in this series, for you've suffered enough and deserve happiness. At least Clantail's coping with this better than the others in her position, so this is turning out to be a nice change of pace for the other survivors. And yeah, I am happy not seeing Clantail ever again in the series so she can just live on happily ever after. Even though she's one of my favorite characters, I'm happy not seeing her again so that she can just live and be happy, please. please let her be happy. Andrea Zapita says, Bruh, the first time I read this, I didn't even notice there was an extra person in the group, nor could I understand why Tepsukeme spoke that way. And I replied, so you just thought that she liked anuses? And she said, well, there are different kind of fetishes, so yeah, I was like, the kids these days keep getting weirder. And I just left that in because I thought it was funny. But yeah, I noticed immediately that the numbers were off. But you saw me during the read-through. I like worked it out as I was reading. I was so confused. Like it took me a while to figure out finally, oh, May is the turtle. Then Andrea Zapita said, you and your magical seals, now I can't unsee. And I was like, yeah, there are just a bunch of magical seals patrolling and guarding the prison. And she replied, well, I guess that's why the prison security is so bad. But yeah, I couldn't stop laughing. There, almost every single read-through for Limited, I have had something I couldn't stop laughing about. Whether it was magical seals, because I couldn't stop thinking about like actual, they're pinnipeds, right? That's what seals are. That's what the word I was thinking of that one time was. I just couldn't stop thinking of like actual pinniped seals just patrolling, guarding the prison. And then there was the one where... God, it's a bit kind of like a pervy thing to laugh at, but when they were like, when Pithy was talking about collecting hair, and she's like, I have to collect head hair, collecting body hair doesn't work, and I was just, I just could not stop, and I'm just going to say it outright, I just could not stop thinking about saying Pithy's Magical Girl Pube Collection, and that's what I could not stop laughing at during that one read-through. I was trying my best not to say it or anything, but I was just dying because that line killed me. And then even just the recent one where Mana kept like hitting at Nanako-san, and then Nanako-san would just slap her halfway across the roof and be like, oh my god, I'm sorry. I couldn't stop laughing at that either. That was such a good scene. I think Limited would be hilarious in the anime. Oh, it's gonna be so good. And then Andrea Zapita said, you know the name of the movie Pukin was talking about is called Christine by John Carpenter and based on a novel by Stephen King. And that's cool, and thank you for letting me know that. What I was thinking of too, with that scene and everything, when she was talking about the car, like the old-timey car chasing after and killing people, all I could think of was that Hello Governor episode of Regular Show. If any of you have seen that, that's what I kept thinking about during that read-through. Then Maverick Alpha, just for some information, says that Kurukuru Hime means something like, or Kurukuru means something like spinny spinny. So it is an onomatopoeia. Her English name would roughly be like Spinny Spinny Princess. And I like the name because Hime, like Himeno, it's in her name. But Kurukuru, I brought it up and that's why they answered me, because I said, is Kurukuru an onomatopoeia, because the Japanese use a lot of that, like Doki Doki or Waku Waku or Beto Beto, which is sticky. But yeah, they use a lot of onomatopoeias for words. So that's what I figured Kurukuru was. Now, Andrea Zapita said, we're about to finish the first part. I never lied about this being the most chill arc / volume of all. And I said, Limit the Turtle documentary confirmed. They said, correction, tortoise. It's a special, and Marco said, it's a special episode of Animal Planet. Andrea said, I thought it was a YouTube, or an animal YouTube video. Okay, but one thing I noticed, that this exchange finally hit me, and I feel really, really dumb if this is the case. I have been told for months and months now, by Andrea, by D-Man, by Marco, by everybody, I think even Queen Deja said it, where they keep saying limited chill and stuff, and I always took that as meaning like, whoa, limited chill. Like, limited is just so brutal and there's so much sadness and death everywhere that they were telling limited to chill, like limited chill. That's what I always perceived it as. That's what I always thought it was. So I've been going into this entire time thinking that limited's going to be the most sad, bloody, and brutal arc. But I just now realized halfway through it that I feel so stupid. I finally realized that maybe they weren't being sarcastic. Maybe they actually meant that limited was chill. And that kind of makes sense now, because the first half has been very chill. So, yeah, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe limited is actually the most chill arc and isn't the least chill arc. Maybe they weren't being sarcastic, and I've just been misperceiving things this entire time. So, yeah. I guess that's a realization I had. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will work on the second part of the Chapter 6 read-through in a day or two. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching that section, and we're going to talk about Tower of God next and last of all, and then the HaQ&A will be done for. Okay, time for the Tower of God section, and I have just realized that I am an hour into recording and still have the entirety of the Tower of God section, which is hella long as always. At least my voice is like, it's a little bit raspy, my throat hurts a little bit, but I feel like it's holding up a lot better than it did during the read-through last night. Of course, this is another chill video. I'm not trying to project a ton, I'm not trying to yell or anything. And I hope my voice picks up in the microphone well. I hope I'm not speaking too quietly. But yeah, I'm trying not to push my voice too hard. But it is getting a little bit raspy and lost. But yeah, let's go ahead and see what we can do about this section. And it is... Oh god, I'm only on page 4 of 7 out of my notes for the HaQ&A. So there's a lot to talk about for Tower of God. Coolfu270 to start this off said, shit, if Arlen uses colorless Shinsu, colorless December was used by Yenza hard and drove her crazy, and discovered Arlen's pocket and hid it. 13 months were spell items, while Arlen was the best spell user. I think there's this connection between bombs, or I think there's a connection there. And of course that's something that I was talking about, where I said that it all, like bomb using colorless Shinsu and black Shinsu was for V and Arlen, because I was saying that Arlen probably used colorless Shinsu because of the colorless December being Enza Hards, and V probably used black Shinsu because Bomb had this had this affinity for the Black March and all that, and now he has black Shinsu. So I do think there is that connection there. And of course that explains N and Arlen's connection with the colorless December maybe being the 13-month that was based on Arlen or whatever. Also they said Bomb's attack can impede regeneration, Karaka can regenerate in... Sorry, I just thought I saw a bug. Karaka can regenerate indefinitely. I think they'll fight immediately after the hidden floor, which is what I've been looking forward to since Season 2, Episode 109. I'm hyped. I'm not saying Bomb can win now. It's too early, but at least Bomb can put up a good fight. I don't think Bomb can put up a good fight against Karaka at this point, because Karaka's like a ranker and super strong and all that. But there's kind of a question and also a observation I have. But first I'll get into the answering of the question, or the question I have. But I don't think Bomb's attack impedes regeneration. I'm pretty sure Zahard said the rules of the floor make him unable to regenerate. And then Khufu responded, is that what they said in English? Because in the Chinese translation he said something like, as a ruler of the data world, yet I'm still unable to regenerate my lost arm, power that can defy even the system. This is really interesting. One of the translations must be wrong. I personally think the Chinese one makes more sense. What do you think? In English he did say, like, I forget the actual words, but I actually left a link to it when I commented back. But he makes it seem like he can't regenerate in the virtual floor, is what Zahard says makes it seem like. But because of the context of what he's saying, I think that Khufu might be right, but again, it's very questionable. And also, I just realized too that I don't think we've actually seen Karaka regenerate. I don't think Karaka actually regenerates. We've just seen Karaka get killed, kind of, and then a past version of himself pops out of one of those black orbs. So I think those black orbs are kind of like respawn spots. He doesn't really regenerate, he just respawns after death. So it's more like a respawn power than a regenerating power. He just respawns a past version of his body that he saved at that point, rather than regenerating the current body. At least that's the way I get Karaka's power, at least. Next up, Akash Panda said, the thing with the second Thorn fragment and the Fitbit's not a trade but a repayment. Bomb's not going to give Gustang the Fitbit in exchange for the second fragment. He's going to give it to Gustang to repay Gustang's favor of giving Bomb the second fragment. Gustang said it was more of a test for Bomb anyway. Also, Rachel said she'd be able to be free of the curse. Do you think that she has an actual curse placed on her real body, or that it was just figurative? I think her actual body, or if her actual body has a curse, then it may not be so stupid of her to change bodies. And Shadow Lugia replied, I like that it's not so much a trade as Bomb not wanting to be indebted to Gustang. Thanks for clarifying. I think that that if Rachel's actually cursed, then escaping to the real world in a big breeder's body wouldn't alleviate the curse unless it was specifically her body that was cursed. When I first read it, I thought she was talking about how she thinks she's ugly, but I really like this interpretation as well. Thank you again and a lot of people brought up the Thorn Fragment thing, but thank you for bringing that up too, and you had one of the best descriptions of it. And also, I don't think it's a literal curse. I don't think she was actually cursed. The way I saw it, and the way I still see it, is that she sees her physical appearance and her weakness as a curse. We've seen it before where she got really pissy with Andrasi and was like, oh, you don't know what it's like, you're blessed with all this power, you're blessed with looking good. And she says the same to Bomb with, oh, you're blessed with all this power, you don't know this or whatever. So I think that her weakness isn't an actual curse. I don't think she's actually cursed. I just think that she sees her physical appearance as a curse, and she sees her weakness as a curse. And of course, I think that she would be even weaker outside in a big breeder's body either way. Of course, we've already kind of moved past this in the story by now, but I think that either way she'd be weaker because A, the big breeder's powers were to change the data, which is what allowed them to use these big powerful moves and do all these cool abilities because they were changing the data, or allowed them to heal anyone because they were changing the data to be healed. But once they're outside of the floor and the place is made of real physical objects and real Shinsu, then the big breeder power shouldn't work at all there. So they'd be weaker in that sense. And she would also lose the Minazuki and all that other stuff. But yeah, I personally think that it's more of a figurative or a perceived curse, not an actual like real literal curse. Let me get some tea before I continue. Sorry, just pushing through the end of this. There's not that much left, but my voice is killing me. Renan said, the second Thorn piece, I just hope he doesn't actually defeat Adult Zahard with it. It was a nice chapter. We could see two of Edwan's techniques. Just one question, how many Thorn fragments are there? BJBT 0586 said it's mentioned in the Floor of Death arc that there's 4, and yes, and I just added this in to help remind anybody that forgot. But yeah, they said there was 4 in the Floor of Death, and there are 4. Bomb has 2 of them, but Bomb was planning to give the second Thorn fragment to whoever got it between him and Rachel. It was kind of their competition or whatever. But now that it's activated, I'm not sure that Bomb can give it away. Like Rachel, I believe, is going to get the Fitbit now that she has stolen it with the Minazuki. So even though Rachel has it, I'm not sure that Bomb can actually give her the second Thorn fragment. Now, I think it's going to be a cool story either way. Where one way we could have Bomb be like, I'm a good guy, I'm a man of my word, here you get the Thorn fragment, and it just adds more of a rivalry between him and Rachel. It kind of evens the playing field a little bit. And it makes Rachel, because she stole it like that, it makes her an even more contemptible antagonist, I guess. And it adds into her as a bad guy. So I think that way it could be good. Or if Bomb keeps it and Rachel gets mad at him and she's like, you're not a man of your word, you lost and yet you won't give me the second Thorn fragment, but whatever, I'm keeping the Fitbit. And she can maybe use that to either get on Gustang's good side, or she can use it to unlock whatever the power is that's supposed to be able to defeat Zahard. So I think either way that this storyline works out good. But that's where 2 of them are. Madarako as one of them, and while Ryun had taken the soul-stirring ladle from Grandissa or Grandisha, I don't remember which one, but she'd taken the soul-stirring ladle to trade for Madarako's Thorn fragment. And the last one they mentioned was missing somewhere, so we don't know where the last Thorn fragment is. Also, I just thought of something about the chapter that I read yesterday, or day before yesterday. The chapter that I read on Monday, the newest one that was, no comments for that are going to be in this, because I made the notes for this before I read that. But I just thought of something. You know that new character Charlie or whatever? I'm probably going to talk about it in the review that you'll probably see later today after this video. But I really don't like his design. Going back and rereading after I did the live reaction, I really don't like Charlie's design. I believe that was his name. But there's just too much going on there. There's like too much color, too much weird shapes. I do not like the design. There's too much going on there. Let me get some more tea. Sorry, my voice is really, really bothering me now. And it sucks that it's really, really bothering me because I'm like right here at the end. So I don't want to take a break and record the rest later because it's only like a couple minutes worth left. Well, maybe like 10-15 minutes at the most, but relatively only a couple minutes worth. Martin Paletti said, I like the latest chapters. The world and the characters are for the most part interesting, but reading from the beginning again, it seems like the focus has shifted on what the story are centered around. Like before, there was a lot more cleverness on how they advanced and how the world worked, and even the concept of the Floor of Death and Hidden Floor are interesting, but they kind of don't matter. For example, the tests, defeating challenges on the Hidden Floor, it was all kind of trivial. It's just my opinion, but the story and world are still good and interesting, but some of what made Tower of God special is a bit lost. I'm not sure if it's just my impression or not. The visuals I do think are getting better. This is exactly how I feel, especially lately, and I've discussed it a lot, which is why I'm going to kind of keep just my general thoughts really quick and short, but I feel basically the same about everything. It's like lately we just focus on Bomb and we forget about everything else. None of the arcs feel important, none of the tests feel important. We just run straight through them. And with other series like One Piece, we have this long overarching story and this good story for the main character, but each of the arcs tells their own story and is really important on their own, where if you take one of the recent arcs alone from Tower of God, they don't really work. Like, the arcs just aren't developed anymore. The side characters aren't developed anymore. It just, everything is about Bomb all the time. And I have hope that things can easily get better, because things have only been this way recently. Like, Floor of Death On kind of recently. Because Dollar Show was amazing. That's one of the best arcs in the entire series. Name Hunt Station was also really great. It did feel a little bit rushed, but it was pretty great, and there were some side things that were kind of forgotten, but it was still great. And just since the Floor of Death, we've kind of just focused on Bomb and forgot everything else. And another problem has been the constant power-ups and always having to get bailed out of trouble by someone or something just showing up out of nowhere. And I think that's because of the way... I don't blame CU too much. It's not a good thing, but I feel like CU is just having to rush because of the way Naver is. But some of the examples, like, just since returning to the train after Name Hunt Station, which has not been long, the only things we've done since then are the Floor of Death and the Floor of Death and the Virtual Floor. And since then, we've had the Shinwan Ryu, we've had the Red Thrissa, we've had the Second Thorn Fragment, the Orb, the new Shinsu, the Burnt Chestnut form, the new Blue War / Shield, and there's probably even more that I'm forgetting, but it's like just in this short amount of time, where before that Bomb had the occasional power-up, just in this short amount of time, we've just had so many items and power-ups thrown at him at the same time. And the training during Virtual Floor is really, really good, so I'm excited for that, but just the power-ups and the items are just so much at once that it feels like too much, and it's hard to feel like he's in danger when every time he's supposedly in danger, Yuri or Yurik Mazano show up. And that's the problem with them being here every single arc now. Every single arc for a while we've had Yuri or Yurik Mazano show up to save Bomb. If not one of those items, it's one of those two. Or even, arguably, Gustang, kind of. So yeah, and arguably kind of Edwan, I guess, this arc too. It's just that Bomb is constantly, each arc lately has been kind of the same, where Bomb bites off way more than he can chew and just gets bailed out by one of them. And it's why I don't like Yuri traveling with Bomb, because it takes away basically any of the danger. It's like, you don't even have to worry about plot armor, because we're not even close to plot armor. We have Yuri as a human shield between Bomb, who's wearing plot armor, and any threat. So yeah, that's just been a problem lately. And I love Tower of God, and I really, really like the Virtual Floor kind of overarching saga or whatever. But I feel like the overall main story and the main point of the story with Bomb and everything has been getting really rushed. And I think that CU needs breaks so that he doesn't have to rush things. He needs to take his time. But I think that it's not totally his fault. I think I think it's a lot of Naver's fault. I think Naver has expectations and he has to get so much done every week. So it kind of sucks. Not Tower of God, obviously, but it kind of sucks the situation that CU might be in writing Tower of God. And of course, that's all only what I can speculate reading the story and reading his blogs. So yeah, I just hope there's more development on the arcs and characters and side stories instead of just rushing the main story so much that he just needs to constantly save him with rankers and powers out of nowhere. Next up, Shadow Lugia 18011 says, I hope when CU states that rankers are on a whole nother level than regulars, he's saying that the Bomb who's comparable to Data Zahard is weaker than no-name rankers. I need to reread the series from the beginning, but if I remember correctly, Bomb went up against a ranker at the beginning of Season 2, and while I have no doubt that the ranker's stronger than what he showed against Viol, I have many doubts as to whether he could beat Bomb in a fight with what he showcased. Another thing I forgot to take into account is that rankers have their bombs restricted by administrators on the lower floors. When Viol and friends fought Rafleo, he claimed to be comparable in power to a C or B rank regular, but I believe it was a B rank. If this is taken at face value, he's saying that he could beat a B rank regular, but I think it'd be better if Refleo was talking about the power of his Shinsu, implying that a B rank regular would have the equipment and skills to make them more of a significant threat. To that end, I hope that acquiring higher level equipment becomes an important part of the story, and I'm not talking about legendary items like the Thorn, but more along the lines of special things like Bong Bong or Anakor. Sorry for such a long comment. I've been worried about the exact issue for months now, and this is the best news I've heard in a while toward it. Don't worry about long comments, any of you. I enjoy the long comments, even if it takes me a while to get to them. Also, that's, again, something that I worry about myself. So personally, I think it's great that CU said that, and that, or that CU said that regulars and rankers were like miles apart, and that Bomb was like miles apart from a ranker at this point. Bomb was able to beat a ranker. It was Mule Love in his test/challenge, whatever, on the 20th floor, but that was just a challenge, not a real fight, so we're not sure if Bomb could have handled him in a real fight being a ranker. And also, I'm pretty sure you're right about the rankers having their powers restricted on lower floors, and also, in general, I would argue that a person is weaker on lower floors, with the exception of like a high ranker. A high ranker is probably like a godlike on any floor, because Shinsu, we've learned, is stronger and thicker as you go up the tower, and weaker and thinner as you go down the tower, so any person is probably weaker with the weaker Shinsu at the bottom than they are toward the top where they're using stronger Shinsu. But of course, a high ranker is probably so strong that that difference in strength or thinness of Shinsu around them probably doesn't even matter that much, just because a high ranker is so powerful. And also, I kind of like viewing it how CU said, where he mentioned that Bomb and them have a long way to get to the top. Logically, we're only like 1/3 up the chapter, or up the tower. Imagine all the change and growth that Bomb has had from the very, very beginning to right now, and now imagine him, what he's going to be like with all the strength gain he's had now. Imagine that same amount of strength gain from here to the next third, when he's 2/3 through the tower, and then by the time when he's at the top, imagine him 3 times as strong as he is now, or exponentially 3 times. And I'll use that as an example. I would argue that Bomb right now beats Hatsu, of course, but look at how much Hatsu has grown from the beginning until now. Imagine Bomb from right now fighting Hatsu that's a ranker. Hatsu's just he's strong, but he's kind of just a normal regular, right? So imagine Bomb fighting a Hatsu that's 3 times as powerful, 3 times as experienced, and has 3 times as much good equipment and items. Then Bomb, though he could handle him now, Bomb probably can't handle a Hatsu that's exponentially 3 times as stronger in every way. So that's kind of the difference. That's kind of an example that I could use, where even a normal regular, once they're a ranker, that's a long way from where we are now. So that's why I would say that Bomb's definitely not ranker strength, of course. And then next up, Future Guy said, I'm not sure how I feel about Wang Nin's power up. If CU wanted to give him a power boost, I think it would have been better to let him train with Bomb and the others with Edwan. I just hope it's not too OP. I mean, he better not be getting anywhere close to Bomb's new level. I agree. And I guess it's not great writing just to give a power up, but I'm kind of used to it by now with the story lately. But I doubt Wang Nin will be anywhere near Bomb's level, because he's still the same old Wang Nin, just with a powerful new item. That won't make himself like Bomb level in terms of normal combat, but we have seen, though, whenever Wang Nin gets into a fight, he can kind of handle himself and get kind of lucky, and maybe that's like a blessing of Zahard or something, but he can handle himself in fights and get kind of lucky. But BJBT0586 said, actually this type of power-up is in line with the theme of the tower, because people rise up in the floors and gain great power by stepping on other people and or making deals with devils like White and maybe Andrasi, or making a deal with the devil like White and maybe Andrasi. And that's very true, actually. Making deals with mysterious powers that often don't work out seems to be a common theme. Like you brought up, White and Andrasi, but we also know Zahard, whatever happened to the 12 great family heads or whatever, and just all this different stuff and how different people became corrupted as they climbed the tower and the deals they had to make and stuff. So yeah, it does fit Tower of God's themes really well. And then finally, lastly for this section, sorry my voice is very, very dead by now, Bence Hux said Karaka's likely to be the target of this sword more so than anyone else other than Bomb, but in my opinion Bomb would be too obvious, so Karaka's the likely target. And I think that's a very good observation because it would make a lot of sense. Bomb is the obvious target still, but if it isn't Bomb, then who next would it be? It makes a lot of sense for Zahard to want to take down someone who is both a slayer and who is also a prince or his son or whatever. So Bomb would be obvious, but it makes a lot of sense for Zahard to want to take down Karaka because of those two things combined. So I hope Siyu does shock me with it being someone other than Bomb, but I have a feeling he could go the obvious route with Bomb. And also, it wouldn't be bad writing for it to be Karaka in the Wangnan sense, because having Wangnan and Bomb fight each other and go after Bomb is a good way to bring up drama and have drama in the story and all that. But Wangnan going after Karaka would be a lot of drama too, since they're technically brothers or whatever. However this whole prince thing works. So yeah, it's actually kind of really good writing either way. Even though I'd prefer it to be something more shocking. But either way, that's it. I'm going to try to end this before my batteries die or anything, because it's been nearly an hour and a half. So, like you did like the video, comment down there, tell me what you thought of this HaQ&A, anything you want me to discuss in the next one, anything like that. Just comment down anything you thought about this one, I don't know. Subscribe for more of all this, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel. And if you want a link to our Discord server, just ask me. I'll give you a link. It's free and open to everyone. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.